Another type of descriptive research is survey research, and this is a strategy used to provide detailed inspection of the prevalence of conditions, practices, or attitudes in a given environment by asking people about them rather than by observing them. You can do questionnaires. A lot of our AUD students do questionnaires for their research projects, and it's very good research. And we could publish it with questionnaires. You can publish your study if you just simply do surveys. So it's appropriate for collecting a relatively restricted information from a wide range of persons. There's also interview research. This is not like empirical or quantitative at all, but if you're working with a very restricted sample, you could ask detailed questions. Retrospective research is another form of descriptive research. This is when investigators examine data already on file before the formulation of a research question. So a researcher could go back and examine routine clinical records or re-examine old data that's already collected. The problem with this is that the researcher doesn't know about the reliability or the validity of the data because the researcher didn't collect the data him or herself. So this is looking back at someone else's old data to maybe look at a different question. Some research is combined experimental and descriptive. If you were to look at the effects of the manipulation of one or more independent variable on the performance of subjects who have been selected from groups that differ on basic classification variables. So in this, we're again looking at manipulating an independent variable, but with different classification variables. So experimental and descriptive research. The effect of experimental manipulation on the dependent variable for one group is compared with the effect of the experimental manipulation on the other group. This research is partially descriptive because the experimenter cannot directly manipulate the classification of subjects. Get it? So the researcher cannot manipulate how the subjects is classified. That would be descriptive. So here we have the results of combined experimental descriptive study of the effect of tracking on reaction time to tones for control participants with Alzheimer's disease. So two groups, controls and those with Alzheimer's disease. So we have the attributes, controls with Alzheimer's disease, and then we're manipulating an independent variable, tones alone and tones versus tracking. So you see how we have descriptive, which is the attributes of the groups being studied, and then experimental, looking at tones and tracking on the dependent variable. Here we have a compression ratio for hearing aids in people with normal hearing and people with who are hearing impaired. So two groups of people, and we're looking at the recognition scores in rationalized arsenine unit. Results of combined experimental descriptive study on the effect of compression ratio and speech recognition of participants with normal hearing and those with hearing impairment. So descriptive are the attributes in our patients that we're looking at, normal hearing versus hearing impaired, and then what we're manipulating is the compression ratio, the independent variable. So you get the drift. When we have a attribute, that makes it descriptive when we're looking at two different attributes, and then experimental if we're manipulating an independent variable.